Hi there, my name's Doug Charlton. I'm with Odd Squad Productions, and I'm here today to introduce you to our line of video podcasts. We're going to feature the issue of gangs today, and we're very fortunate to have with us two experts, Doug Spencer and Dawn Richards. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is look at a series of segments today from Gangs and Guns. First thing we want to look at is what are the reasons for joining a gang and the definition of a gang.
I'd say I guess a group of people that are close, that have each other's back, but for the wrong reason.
You can have 4 guys in a gang, you can have 20 guys in a gang. It doesn't matter how many guys you have in a gang, it all depends on what you're willing to do. And most guys nowadays are willing to kill anybody for nothing, so you can even have 2 guys in a gang.
Pretty much a big group of guys that love doing things that will make them money, but illegally, or just want to do stupid things, create chaos wherever they go.
The definition that we've been using for gangs now within the Surrey School District is a group of adolescent males that use intimidation or violence to carve out reputation, to carve out material goods, or to carve out a name for themselves.
They form friendships and partnerships with each other, and they usually identify themselves with some type of marking or clothing, and draw lines or territories within our neighborhoods.
3 or more people involved in a criminal capacity to gain money for one, the gang itself.
A group of people that go around robbing, doing whatever they can to make money by using intimidation, violence, stuff like that.
Over to you, Doug. Could you give us a legal definition of a gang?
In the criminal code, it's 3 or more people involved in criminal conspiracy for the betterment of one, and the one being the gang.
What's the difference between organized and an unorganized gang?
The organized gang, there's a hierarchy, a leader per se, and street level lieutenants and stuff that hand out the drugs to the kids selling them in the street or doing their robberies for them or whatever. Street gangs are far less organized. There's no real leadership. You'll have up to 20 or 30 kids all doing criminal activity, but they're not doing it for one, the gang. They really don't have a reputation carved out as a named gang.
It's hard to say what a typical gang member is anymore. The smart gang members don't even dress nice anymore. You won't even know they're gang members, but those are the guys that are putting in the dirt. A gang member could be anybody. It could be your next door neighbor. It could be, it could be anybody just hanging with a group of guys, and they just form a gang and they just get bigger and bigger, or the violence they create, or the drugs they sell.
Gang members that we're dealing with on a daily basis are not just South Asian, they're not just Vietnamese. We've had a large amount of Filipino gang members, we've had Latino gang members, we've had Caucasian gang members, we've had Aboriginal gang members.
We're seeing them intermixed along ethnic lines. We're seeing them, there's one gang that permeates British Columbia, like a UN gang. They actually call themselves a UN gang, and they're made up of every kind of ethnic background you can imagine. It's about crime, it's about hurting other people, it's about banding together to have power against your rival. And the hard and fast lines around ethnicity don't seem to be what they once were.
There are impoverished kids of all ethnicities that have a lack of parenting and adult supervision. They will grasp onto that gang as their family. It will replace the family they're missing. They're not doing it to get rich, they're just doing it to feel safe. But there's certainly lots of rich kids that are doing it just for the mere status.
If you look at some of the South Asian kids or the Indo-Canadian kids that I'm working with, they come from upper to high middle class homes, 5,000 square feet, a tremendous amount of resources, yet they're still getting involved in gang-associated behavior. Whereas 15 years ago, we would have said that it's only kids that come from the poor part of town that are involved in the economic side of gang activity. Certainly not the case anymore.
There's a lot more male gang members than there are female gang members. Generally, female gang members aren't really gang members as such, but they're used by the male gang members to carry money, drugs, weapons.
These guys, they know exactly what they're doing. They need someone to take the blame for them. That's what it boils down to. Because of the way I look and because of the way I am, it was a perfect cover for someone to use me to get things across the border.
A lot of these girls are in the background orchestrating offenses, sometimes, if you will, adding to the justification process for why others should carry out attacks, and in some scenarios actually have an inordinate amount of influence over some of the male gang members.
What sort of influence do economic circumstances have on gang membership? For example, in El Salvador, we have MS-13, which is very poverty-driven. The Lower Mainland, we have, for example, the UN gang, not really poverty issues. So what circumstances sort of bring these events around?
Well, I think in British Columbia, for the most part, we're pretty unique in that we aren't necessarily solely driven by an economic situation, which we'll see in other countries. However, economics always plays a factor in gangs because people think or believe that they will be rich if they get involved in gangs and get involved in, you know, the type of criminal activity that they engage in.
I joined a gang because I wanted the money, the respect, and the power. And the guys that came up to me and told me if I joined them, that I would have so much money. Like I could make money and not have to worry about anybody, and no one will touch me, and I'll have all this respect.
The appeal for young adolescent males is just the ease of the lifestyle. It is just not having to go to school, not having to put in a lot of effort, but having a lot of money and disposable income and fancy cars and a lot of pretty women at their side.
Fast money, fast life, lots of cars, nice clothes, and respect. Respect amongst their peer groups and notoriety.
Some people might join a gang because they feel safe, they feel protected by that gang. Self-esteem issues, some people will join just because they think it's cool to be a gangster. They want to be that visible out there guy.
The strong scholars and the strong athletes already have a reputation, and they're already putting in a tremendous amount of hours, resources, and time into sports. They're tremendously busy. They don't have time to be hanging out on the street, and they've earned a reputation. Everybody knows that they're a star athlete or a strong academic student. It's the ones that have a lot of time on their hands, that don't have a reputation, that want to be known for something. And an easy way to get known for something is to become the drug dealer, or to become the gang member, or to become the guy that dresses like a gang member.
There are plenty of cases where we have well-to-do kids who get inducted into gang life because they're bored and because they can do it and they have some sophistication to be able to engage in that type of behavior. Those kids, nevertheless, are usually poorly connected to their parents as well, even though they have money.
One of the biggest factors that we find with a lot of the youth that are engaged in this activity is a lack of parental involvement, a lack of engagement with any sort of adult that is consistent and positive in their life, and a lack of success.
Once kids start to feel disconnected from family and in particular from school, in terms of the academic and achievement end of things, then it's much easier for kids to get pulled into the lure of gang life.
They recruit younger kids, younger up-and-coming kids, kids from the SkyTrain, drug dealers from various places around the Lower Mainland. But they recruit the violent kids too, the kids that will do whatever they say when they say it.
I grew up in a rough area, right? But my family, I'm the only one in my family that's ever been arrested. All my aunts, all my uncles, my mom, my dad, everybody, no one's ever been in any trouble. Nice house, nice cars, always food in the fridge, stuff like that. But I chose to hang out with certain people. Right? And I went down the opposite route of what they went down, and now I'm in jail.
And Doug, what's our opinion on influences at an early age on kids who get involved with the gang?
Parental, or the parents involved in gang activity or criminality, the kids in their neighborhood, peer pressure. The media drives it with gangster rap videos and movies and clothing lines that you see. The kids, through peer pressure, are just trying to be like the other kids. So if you get a few more things like a drug issue they may have, or a lack of parental involvement, there can be any or all of those reasons will drive a kid towards a gang.
And how early do you think you can sort of start to see these things with the youth?
Grade 4 or 5. The kids hanging together, 2 or 3 of them, and bullying other kids on the school ground. It kind of drives that into their head that they can gain by being together and teaming up on one guy or 2 kids or whatever kids in the school. They can gain by that. They can steal their lunch money, right? It starts at a very little, seemingly inconsequential thing. And the next thing you know, you get an older kid that now recruits them when they get to high school in grade 8 and says, you do all that, come and work with our gang and you'll get rich, like Don said. And it's just a fallacy.
And Dawn, what's your opinion on the lure to the gang lifestyle with regard to drugs and alcohol? Does this have a big impact in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. It does have a huge impact. And like Doug was saying with the youth, the younger they are and the more they're involved in drugs and alcohol, that's what the gang recruiters will use against them. They'll supply them the drugs or supply them free alcohol, in exchange for them doing something else on their behalf. So it engages them into the criminal lifestyle, into the criminal activity, and for the first time they're starting to see, that was easy money. That's what they think. And definitely it can trap them into a situation where now they need those drugs. So they're stuck. They can't get out of the gang because they're stuck in a situation where they need to get more and more. And that's the only way they can do it, is to continue working for or doing what they're doing or engaging in criminal activity.